Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So the Dwarfs are marching to war again, led by Snorri the Runesmith, with his brothers Anarin the Runesmith and Thoraz the Thane. We've got 30 Dwarf warriors with hand weapon and shield, full command. We've got 40 Dwarf warriors with great weapons in the Horde formation, full command. We've got 2 units of 20 Slayers, some Giant Slayers in there. One of the units has a Standard Bearer as well. We've got 2 Walking Guns, yep, that's right, a Cannon and a Grudge Thrower. And there are also 3 Gyrocopters not in the picture here. As usual, I've forgotten to take them out of the bag at the time that I took the picture because they're in separate boxes. And it's 2,500 points, ready to go to war against the Empire. For those of you interested in the tournament scene as well, this comes out as a +1 on the comp system. I am considering taking the Slayers out on tour again. Kind of a fluffy list, of course, because I've just got the Dwarf Warriors and Slayers. So, it could be soft in some respects. I don't have any of the elite Dwarfs. But then again, I've got 2 Organ Guns and 3 Gyrocopters, so it's not exactly a soft list. So I'm up against Bodan's Empire, and he's got a Tokugawa Japanese army, excuse the pronunciation, with the Japanese soldiers, the samurais, a Jesuit priest, as his mage, and William Adams leading the artillery. I think he's got the old pike and shot models there, which is pretty cool, gives it a very different themed feel to it. From left to right, we've got 10 archers skirmishing in the woods, which are the detachment for the next unit, which is 20 spearmen with full command. He's got the level 4 mage in there on Heavens. He rolled up Comet of Cassandora, Ice Shard Blizzard, the Thunderbolt, and Harmonic Convergence. You can see a mortar at the back there as well. Moving on to the right there, you've got a unit of 10 handgunners, which is a detachment for the next block of 20 spearmen. You've got another unit of 10 handgunners, which is a detachment for the unit of greatswords behind them. There's also the BSB in there with the greatswords. Cannon at the back there, great cannon. You've got another block of 20 spearmen right in the middle. Behind them, you've got the knights. Can't remember now exactly what flavour of knights they are, but they've also got the general of the Empire with them, with that really cool model there with the guy attacking with his sword on horseback. A cheeky detachment of halberdiers in there as well, in between the knights and the spearmen. You've got 10 handgunners, another detachment there on their left, moving to the right, and then we've got 6 outriders and a hellblaster bodygun. So, very shooty list, lots of handgunners in there. Got the Hellblaster, the cannon, and the mortar. And I think they're going to outshoot me for this game. We rolled up Blood and Glory, and as you can see from the deployment, I'm very much deploying on the line, ready to advance forward with my Dwarves, which is very refreshing, really, because I'm used to playing a defensive shooty strategy with the Dwarves, as you can imagine. The Blood and Glory scenario, obviously, it works on Fortitude. My Fortitude is 6, and I'm up against a Fortitude of 8 for the Empire. So I will have to get a few more banners, 5 banners in total. Obviously the general counts for 2, in order to bring him down to 3 to win the mission. So I'm very much on the line, ready to advance forward as quickly as I can, because I think he's got me outgunned. Hopefully my organ guns can survive long enough to be relevant throughout the game. Love to get first turn, of course, so I can try and take out some of his artillery before it takes out mine. I rolled up for the Grudge. My characters hate his characters, so we'll see if that comes into play as well. But this should be a very interesting mission for the Dwarves. We've set up the terrain like this. As you can see, we've got sort of wooded areas on the left, and we've got this hill in the middle. So let's see if one of us wants to take that hill or charge down it with some more impassable terrain on the right hand side. So the Empire get first turn, and immediately that block of spearmen right in the middle advances to the foot of the hill. So it looks like there might be a sort of anvil unit there that that Bodan doesn't mind me charging into early on. And then comes the magic phase, and I'm quite lucky with my dispel dice here because I'm able to stop the comet, which obviously could be a catastrophe, especially for dwarves. And I managed to stop the Ice Shard Blizzard going off on one of my organ guns. I'm not able to stop the Thunderbolt though, and it takes 2 wounds off the Gyrocopter on my left hand side. The Outriders who have vanguarded up, as you can see on the right, shoot at the Slayers and kill a few of them. We've then got the volley gun and the handgunners all blasting into the dwarf warriors and kill around 8 of them, despite their 5-up ward from the Master Wound of Grugni. And then the cannon takes out my grudge thrower. So, big round of shooting there from the Empire. I think they'll be quite satisfied with that first turn. Quite a few dwarves lost their lives already, and we move on to dwarf turn 1. So I just march up everything forward at full pelt, a mighty 6 inches, of course. The Slayers on my left-hand side have a bit of cover from that wood, which hopefully can protect them from some of the handgun fire as they try and make it into combat. My gyrocopters come around the flank. I've got one of them going up behind the wood where those skirmishing archers are. Hopefully he can either come round and attack the war machines or come and drop some templates over some of their units in the later turns. We've got 2 gyrocopters coming up my right-hand flank. Now, one of them drops bombs on the outriders and kills a couple of them. The other one tries to do the same thing but misfires and loses a wound. And I then fire the cannon. They pass their panic test. But of course, those bombs are dropped in the movement phase. So in the shooting phase, I fire my cannon actually at the volley gun, and I manage to hit an outrider and the volley gun. I kill an outrider, and they panic and flee, which is quite good for me because that brings them out of position, and they won't be able to chaff me up next turn. But then the cannon hits the volley gun, and I roll a 1 to wound, don't I? Of course. So that volley gun will be there to unload into my Slayers next turn. And my organ guns only just kill a handful of handgunners, really, so not particularly good on that first turn of shooting. I've made those outriders flee, of course, so that's something, but not too much damage done. Can't match the first turn shooting from the Empire. But I think I'm not too negative at the moment, because the distance between our battle lines isn't that far, because the Empire have deployed quite far forward as well, and obviously with Blood and Glory you can deploy a big 15 inches up rather than the usual 12. So I should be able to make it into combat, if not next turn, turn 3. And I think I've definitely got a combat advantage against the army that I'm up against, especially while those greatswords and knights are behind the lines rather than on the lines. So feeling good, and we go into Empire turn 2. So it's Empire turn 2, and I'm just hoping that shooting phase isn't going to be quite as devastating as it was last turn. The archers in the wood turn to face that gyrocopter on 1 wound, shoot at it, but fail to take that last wound off it. It is toughness 5, of course, with a 4-up save, so they have got a difficult task there, but with only 1 wound, I would try it as well, I'm sure. The knights, with the general in it, move to the right a bit, where there's a bit of a gap there that hopefully they can lap round. The outriders rally, as you can see in the picture. In the magic phase, I'm forced to use one of my runes of spell breaking on the comet. I can't have that getting dropped in the middle of the table too early on in the game, where it's going to blow up and kill my units and not kill Empire units. So I've got to use the scroll on that. The mortar blows itself up, fantastic. The volley gun fluffs the dice and only kills 1 or 2 dwarves, and the cannon misses. So kind of coming out of Empire turn 2 quite unsaved. So it's Dwarf turn 2, and I'm mulling over some charges here. I've got my 2 blocks of Dwarf warriors in the middle of the table on the hill, looking at that block of spearmen, which of course is off their Empire line slightly. I think both my units needed an 8 to make it in, and I thought, I'm just going to declare with both units, hopefully make it in with 1, if not 2. And if I make it in with the warriors with great weapons, I think I can crush them quite badly on that combat and then overrun. And if I make it in with the sword and board warriors, then I may not win combat or win combat by much to break them, but then I can stick there and hopefully get some slayers in to join that combat later on in the game. I also declare a charge with my slayers on the volley gun. It's a bit of a long bomb charge, but you know what? If I fail the charge, I move forward a few inches. They can only move forward 6 inches anyway, so what's the big deal? They do fail it, and they move forward 6 inches. So just like a march anyway. And my warriors with the hand weapon and shield make it into the spearmen, and the great weapon warriors fail the charge. A little bit awkward because they're left, as you can see in the picture, stuck behind my deep unit. And because they're in hall formation, they can't really maneuver around it. But there isn't really a huge threat there, just from the way that the Empire lines are set up. Those great swords are blocked in as well. The knights are blocked in as well. So, I do have one or two turns leeway before those knights or those great swords make it in. So it's not that urgent yet, and we'll just have to see how it goes. My slayers on the other side of the board come through the woods, right? Obviously they're unbreakable, so not really fast about being charged at the moment. There isn't anything right in front of them that I'm particularly afraid of. And what else? Yeah, the gyrocopters. So that one with one wound drops a flame template on the mage's unit and kills a few spearmen. And the other gyrocopters sort of fly over the top there, one threatening the volley gun from behind and the other one threatening the cannon from the side. So I'm sort of quite pleased with how things are going at the moment, because I'm advancing forward within range. I've already got one unit into combat and my gyrocopters around the back. The organ guns don't have much to shoot at, really, so they just take off another few handgunners. In combat, the warriors do win the combat by a few, but the spearmen pass their leadership test, and so we're left as a bit of a grind there with these two basic core units in the middle. So Empire turn 3, and there's only one charge, and it's that unit of spearmen flanking my dwarf warriors in the middle. So those dwarf warriors got a bit of a problem now. Unit of spearmen with ranks in the front, another unit of spearmen with ranks in the side. The outriders move up to chaff up my slayers, prevent them from getting into the volley gun with the engineer. Oh, I forgot to mention the engineer, sorry, when I was doing the army run through. There is an engineer by that volley gun. The wizard, level 4 wizard, leaves that unit of spearmen, because obviously he can see those slayers bearing down on them. And he joins the skirmishing archers in the wood instead. In the magic phase, I need to use my second scroll, Rune of Spellbreaking, on the Comet of Cassandora again. Been lucky so far, dispelling it in the round 1 and using my scrolls in turns 2 and 3. But soon he's going to get that comet off, because I've got no scrolls left now. Only a few slayers die to the volley gun. I've been quite lucky with this volley gun, actually, because apart from that first turn, the dice haven't been on the volley gun side. The handgunners as well, killing a slayer or a dwarf warrior or two, we can't remember now. But no match. The Empire just can't match what they did in that first turn, unfortunately, with the dice. And the cannon misfires, and it can't shoot this turn or the next turn, so that's a bit of a relief for me as well. The combat in the middle then, the spearmen start to grind me down. Obviously I've lost my rank bonus because I'm disrupted in the flank there. And the dwarves lose combat, and they're on a leadership 6 rerollable test, which we passed, quite fortunately. So, they've got a big grind in the middle there. Those dwarf warriors look like they don't have too long, but I've got my, obviously, big horde behind them. Now, the horde can't make it into combat yet. You might not be able to see it on the picture there because of the way that the hill gets in the way, but the back rank of those dwarf warriors is blocking my great weapon warriors from getting into that combat. So my horde is kind of stuck there on the hill at the moment, but the way things are looking, I may as well just wait for my dwarf warriors to thin out a bit, and then I'll be able to join the combat. Dwarfs turn 3, so now it looks like my slayers are going to finally make it into combat. So I declare a charge with the slayers on the right into those outriders right in front of them, and the slayers on the left charging that unit of spearmen where the level 4 mage no longer resides. They both make it in. The dwarves on the right kill those remaining outriders. The dwarves on the left there defeating those spearmen in combat. They do manage to get away though, so we're left pursuing them on the left hand side. And of course we get that crucial banner, so we're one step closer to the Blood and Glory scenario. The gyrocopter charges into the back of the volley gun, wins combat just by 1 or so, but the volley gun sticks, so we'll have to see how that grinds out. But at least I can stop that volley gun unloading into my slayers next turn. The organ gun gets a fantastic shot into the general's unit and kills a handful of knights, and they break. and the general is fleeing away there. I'm sure he'll recover next turn and rally, but that's a big blow because that's going to really prevent that unit of knights from coming into that main combat anytime soon. And of course, they're significantly weakened by that shot as well. The other gyrocopter drops a steam template on the handgunners. It was due to go into that cannon, of course, but now that cannon's misfired and can't shoot next turn either. It's not a priority anymore, so he wants to do some more damage on the infantry. And then that gyrocopter trying to put a steam gun on that those archers in the woods. This is the gyrocopter on 1 wound who is who just can't die. And if I can try and thin out that level 4 mage's unit, then maybe able to drop some bombs on the mage once he no longer gets his lookout sir. The big fight in the middle then goes pretty much the same as it did last turn. So I lose more dwarves and the Empire lose spearmen. I don't have my rank bonus and the dwarves lose. And once again, they're on leadership 6 rerollable and they pass. Now, I've got the dice on my side a little bit because 6 rerollable isn't easy, but so far those dwarves have been able to stick, and the casualties that they've taken now mean that my horde can make it into combat next turn on dwarves turn 4. So the Empire have a bit of a job to do. What are they going to do about that big horde coming in and really swinging that big combat on turn 4? We shall see. Empire turn 4. So the general rallies there with his remaining 3 knights. The spearmen rally, ready to face down those slayers again on the left-hand side. There was one charge, which was the halberdiers into the gyrocopter. The gyrocopter fled, towards the far right side of the board there. Those greatswords are still blocked in though, and can't make it into combat yet. I know Bodan was considering bringing out the BSB to charge the BSB into combat. Hopefully that could make a difference, but he decided against it in the end. And we go on to the magic phase. Now it's another frustrating magic phase for the Empire, or a lucky one for me. I managed to dispel the buffs that he tries to get off on the Spearmen, Harmonic Convergence, Ice Shard Blizzard, or the Hex on my Dwarf Warriors. So that combat in the middle doesn't have any magical interference. And then comes the comet. Now, don't have any dice left, don't have any scrolls left, but he fails to cast it, and I just felt for him there because I've managed to stop that comet every turn, and the one turn where I don't have any dice to stop it, don't have a scroll to stop it, he fails the actual cast on the dice. So no Comet of Cassandora so far this game. In the combat in the middle as well, the spearmen just fluff their rolls, and the actual dwarf warriors win combat miraculously. The spearmen pass their break test, and it's just a stalemate once again. But the problem is, of course, in the next turn, my great weapon warriors, who are still pretty much intact, they've lost most of their back rank, but they've still got just over 30 models there, 33 or something. So when they come in, that's going to make a huge difference to that combat in the middle. So Dwarfs turns 4, and this is where things start to unravel a bit for the Empire. So that horde finally makes it into combat, into the flank of those spearmen, who are in the flank of my other warriors. The Slayers on the left charge that other unit of spearmen again. They're already weakened. The cannon then, in the shooting phase, which I actually forgot to fire last turn, because I just forgot about it at the back of my lines there. That's what happens when you're moving all your army forward. You forget about something that's left on the backboard edge. But I managed to shoot at his general, and I get a direct hit and just take out his general. Which, I mean, yeah, it just happened. The general was there. He's lost too many knights to give him a lookout, sir. And so I just take him out with the cannon. Boom, and that's a big swing to me. There isn't a widespread panic at all, but of course, in the close combat phase, all of those great weapon warriors coming in means I win that combat quite significantly, and I break both those units of spearmen. We don't manage to catch them. The spearmen get away, but in terms of the blood and glory scenario, taking out the general and taking out those 2 banners in the middle means that he's already lost that banner on the left hand side with the Slayers, means that that's the end of the game on turn 4. So it's turn 4 victory for the Dwarfs. So another very enjoyable game of Warhammer, and really refreshing for me to actually have a kind of move forward and charge strategy with my dwarves, which I very rarely get to do unless I'm up against wood elves or something. The organ gun survived as well all the way through the game, which is very rare. They normally get targeted turn one, for extermination, and they're just a constant threat. Obviously up against a very fluffy Empire list. I'm not sure what it would have come out on a comp system, but it's got sort of small and medium-sized units of core troops with one block of knights and great swords for packing the punch. So I really felt like I had the upper hand in the close combat phase, and through luck, really. Obviously, I lost my grudge thrower, but then the Empire lost the mortar and the cannon to misfires, and I was able to get my gyrocopters on that volley gun quite quickly. So even though I started with a shooting disadvantage, I ended up having a shooting advantage later on in the game, and was able to block the magic quite effectively as well. Obviously, my list being a bit stronger than the Empire list gave me an advantage in that respect as well. However, there was a few things that I think the Empire could have done. Obviously, the obvious one being the great swords and the knights were unable to make it into combat. So what could have been done there? I don't know. Maybe just backing off a bit initially when you see the dwarves coming at you, and we've got that advantage in terms of combat effectiveness. Perhaps just back off a bit. Don't give us any options to charge on turn 2, which obviously I was able to get those warriors in on turn 2, and just have a way so that if I do make it into combat with those spearmen, those great swords and those knights can then come into the flank. So perhaps it's about deployment, or perhaps it's about amalgamating some of those smaller units into slightly bigger units to give them more staying power. And obviously against the Slayers, there's not much there that's got, Slayers, it must be hard fighting against Slayers, because whatever you put into them, they're going to do so much damage to your unit. You just got to hope you don't get into combat with them with anything that you really want to hold on to. So you just got to back off and shoot them, and then hit them hard with something that's able to withstand their attacks. But yeah, great game. Bodan's got a lovely Empire army there. Hope to see that again soon, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave me a comment, give us a like, and I'll speak to you all soon. Peace.